we're cooking with olive oil. So, because, okay, so what I want to do, we get this done because I know you have a day that you got to get to. Do you got to get to class today or school today?
I have a class at 5.
Okay. So, remember I called you before about teaching teachers how to be better teachers?
Yes.
How to get them into holistic education so they understand the energy they're pushing out to their students and what the students are receiving, because I think they learn better. I know they learn better.
Mm-hmm.
But we also know a lot of administrative schools, colleges, higher learning are not accepting this type of education for some reason whatsoever. Why do you think that is, real quick?
To be honest, bureaucracy and money.
Okay.
Because if you can control what people think, you can control them.
Right, right.
And that has been the way education has been set up for many, many years. Even in democratic countries or our republic, we are told what to think and what to know. We're not told how to learn.
But we also know that our education is what we know now. It's broken. It's fragmented.
It is.
Our kids are more in trouble, more in prison. They're more a lot of things. So I know certain nonprofit organizations are looking to do more. I get that, and I think that's awesome. Mm-hmm. But we still need mainstream schools to do more, I think.
Yeah.
Or we need teachers to step outside of what they think is better and to learn something different.
Well, it's both. Now, there is a good thing happening. Universities right now are shifting their teaching methods to something more inquiry based, so the students can find where to explore and what to learn within the parameters of the core foundation of knowledge. However, what we're finding is that because they're being pretty much indoctrinated in a way of learning all the way up to high school, the first 2 years, maybe the first 3 years in college,
okay,
it is trying to unshape their minds.
Correct.
So it's right now I teach freshmen, so I get them right from high school, and they still have this mentality: am I right or wrong? Is this right? Yeah. And we're teaching them to find what is their interest. What are you going to do with your life? And they ask a question and they come back and say, is this okay? So, I don't know. What do you want with your life?
Yeah, right.
Look at it again. If that's what you want with your life, then we're in the right path. You will discover other things on your way there. But we still have that mentality in the kids of, I just want to make sure that it's right. I just want to make sure that I complete the requirements. I also want to make sure that I work for the minimum requirements to pass. And in all of this, one thing that I focus on the students is make sure that whatever it is you're studying, I don't care what it is, you need to make sure that it matches what your life is going to look like, because otherwise you're wasting your time.
It matches your passion. It has to match your passion.
Exactly. Okay. So that's a part of the story that I was telling you before with my dad. My dad saw that I was applying for civil engineering, and he said, why? I said, well, I have good grades. I can, that looks interesting. I can go for it. And he said, yeah, but you love art. Why would you do anything different? You might have a check. You might have a steady job, which is a complete fallacy. But you're going to be miserable because it doesn't match who you are. It doesn't match what you want with your life. So yeah, you're going to have a job. So what?
So now there's two parts of this. There is matching who you are with what you want to do, and the teacher, which you also are in the higher ed, understanding that a student's not following their passion, and you recognizing that.
Exactly.
That's got to be difficult for you to recognize, because what I've noticed that's most older teachers, they're still like, it doesn't matter where you want, it's matter what I'm teaching. And I'm not sure if that's the same as helping the student.
Yeah, well, this is the interesting part. The format of the class and the way, at least the way that I conduct the class, right off the bat, when you get there on the first day, the first thing that I make the students do is, after they introduce themselves and tell me what they're studying and why they're studying that, I'm listening. That is something that have been lost in older educators that are part of the old school system.
Now, are you listening with just your ears, or are you listening with your compassion?
With everything.
See, now, did you learn that through, because I know you're a holistic practitioner also. Mm-hmm. Now, how did you incorporate that into your teaching? Because I think that's what we were talking about, helping teachers be better teachers. They miss listening with their heart and their compassion. They're listening with up here and what they need to get over, or what they're trying to generate, instead of what they're intaking.
Well, to be honest, it is my side of the story, my opinion, that you cannot teach what you don't have. A lot of people is so caught up with the system itself, okay, that they cannot help someone find themselves when they cannot find themselves. This is that brokenness when it comes to disconnect. Mm-hmm. I am so disconnected from myself that it's almost impossible for me to help you connect with yourself.
Right.
So that needs to happen first. The sense of identity, the sense of who you are, the sense of understanding your skills, understanding your talents, but at the same time understanding your weaknesses, and being honest enough to put them to the plate and tell the students, this is who I am. This is how you're going to see me. You might have your interpretations, but know this. I'm doing this because this is not even a job. So I love it. I love it so much that I'm not even working. I spend more time and more mental effort deciding what I'm going to wear to work than teaching these kids.
Now, how?
It is life. We're teaching life. We're teaching them a way, an academic way, which is inquiry, to figure out things, mm-hmm, to get their brains to ask questions about things that they never asked before, that they didn't stop and think. And in that search, we discover things about ourselves at the same time. And we learn, and we get to see ourselves in them. And that's the part that we lost as educators sometimes, that we forgot we were there.
So kudos to your school, but along with your other faculty, have you noticed some stagnant with them and their approach, and how you could help them approach it differently? Now, I wouldn't say better, but differently. So you get
well, one thing that we do, part of our culture as FYS professors, which is the first year seminar, okay, part of our culture is that we meet pretty much regularly in these informal groups, and we talk to each other. And at least the ones that are closer to me in my circle, those that I know a little better because we've been teaching this for the last 2 years, they have that mentality.
Okay.
They know who they are, mm-hmm, and they want to help students figure out who they are. However, I've seen other professors that are disconnected. I just want to go, give me the script. I will go through the script, and I'll be done with the class. You will have that with professors that students will complain and say, how is it possible that I am trying to figure out my path for life and I'm wrong?
How is that possible?
And we have the experience. We have one professor that was kicked out of the class because everything was wrong. And the students didn't have, which is very important for them, clear goals, clear expectations, mm-hmm, but at the same time, the freedom to discover. Those things in a balance will become a vehicle for them to figure out what they want to do with their lives. Now, I was called in I was teaching 3 classes at the time, and they gave me this 4th one mid-semester. And, you know, they had the guys who organized the class, and they sit with me and they said, we need you to do something for us. Are you willing to take this class? Like, it was mid-semester. That was kind of weird. And I said, yeah, no problem. What do you want me to do? We need you to help the students love this class again. That was my job.
Yeah.
And I mean, I tell you this humbly because they called me for that. They were like, we know the person who's going to take care of these guys.
Right.
And in a matter of a week or two, I'll say into the 3rd week, these students were showing this amount of skills and their passion for learning that was beyond what we all expected. They caught up with everybody else. They were ready for all their presentations and everything else. But for me, the most important aspect is that on the first day we met, one of the students came to me after class and said, I never saw any of these guys smiling in class before. I don't want to take credit for that, but it is, I think it is reflected in how we do things.
So how can we help teachers get that?
Okay, this is the way that I will approach the situation for them. First of all, the sense of identity.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know where we're from and who we are and what we want to do with our lives in order to be able to teach somebody else.
Right.
At the same time, we need to understand that we were students too. Mm-hmm. And I was sharing this with one of my students because they have presentations this week and they get very nervous. First oral report in class. I mean, college is different. And they're all freaking out because they want to do it right.
Right.
And I said, just relax. Just tell me what you have and you'll be fine. And the student looked at me and she said, well, you're a kind of professor that people feel comfortable with. So I took my chance to explain my professors were very good to me. They cared. They wanted me to learn. They wanted me to be the best no matter what I was doing. But this is the interesting part. Not the best as better than somebody else.
Better for themselves.
Better than yourself.
Yeah.
I am not better than anybody else. I don't misinterpret being conceited with being confident, because I don't think I'm better than anybody else. But one thing I'm sure, I'm better than the me from yesterday.
Yes.
Sorry. And I told the student, they were so good to me and they helped me so much. And from my teachers in elementary school all the way to college, they helped me so much that I don't see a reason for trying to make your life miserable.
Right. I
cannot give something that I didn't receive. Therefore, this is what I received. This is what I'm giving to you. And
so now
you can be confident and you can be, understanding that we're here to help you. We're not here to destroy you.
So here's the other side of the sandwich. How are we going to help our kids, our children, our young adults or young learners, because they don't always have to be young kids, open themselves up to change the transformation of life into action?
There's a principle that you will find not only in psychology of learning, but you're going to find it in different religions. You're going to find it in the Bible. You're going to find it in different sources of spiritual information. Is that if you change the way you think, you will change the way you behave. Therefore, those things, that perception that we have for ourselves, that is, of course, influenced by our environment and also influenced by how the environment interprets our behavior. And it's also influenced by our personal factors that are physical, spiritual, cognitive, and affective. All these things are in constant battle to shape us.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't know who we are not going to be able to understand where we're going. I call it the GPS of life. I tell my students all the time, for a GPS to work, you need a destination, but you need a starting point. what are you now? What are your fears? And then when they discover their fears, it is our job to let them know, hey, fear is a good thing. And this is why. And I'm going to do the reference from Rocky.
Okay.
Rocky 5, he said, fear is like a fire. If you don't control it, it's going to burn you and it's going to burn everything around you. But if you control it, it's going to fuel you and you're going to become stronger. And we are all afraid of something. We are somehow, our human nature forces us to be fearful or of not knowing.
And that's part of like one of the stuff I teach is working on that body-brain connection, that connective issue, right? So that fear, what it triggers in the amygdala and how it shuts down the body and the chemicals and the endorphins and the synapses and how it triggers all these other physiological responses along with our prefrontal cortex and how we can get into, reasoning and rational and deductive education and stuff like that, because fear shuts a lot of stuff off.
Oh yes, and this is it paralyzes people. It paralyzes people, and this is something that we don't pay attention to as educators. And not only that, in every field we lose perception that we are people working with people. If I am doing physical therapy, I'm not moving parts of a machine. I'm moving
a person. I'm moving
the physical body is connected to a soul, is connected to a brain, is connected to a spirit. They cannot live in isolation.
No.
They are intertwined so closely that you sometimes don't know which one it is that is getting in the way. So we have to pay a lot of attention on that. Our students will learn. If they lose the fear of discovery, if they are confident that whoever is working with them will support their discovery and guide them, they're going to be able to connect with themselves. And I've seen it. I've seen students, they come to me. There was a student yesterday. She came to me and said, I changed my major again. I've been discovering that this is me. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. And yeah, there are a lot of requirements in this area that look like what I want, but this is more fitting. And then I had the chance to tell her, but listen to this. Do not discard the previous, because you don't know how many of those experiences are going to help you with the new one. And that's the part of academics that we're missing most of the time. If you look back in time, you go back to the ancient times, religion, science, architecture, art, medicine, everything was one thing.
It was one thing. And
everything was connected.
And they broke it up and they did this whole,
compartmentalizing knowledge. We have a part of the exercise that we work on in class is that we work with issues, and sometimes it's like silly words that we put there. And we look at that problem or that subject based on natural sciences, social sciences, art, and humanities. And this is because each one of those perspectives is going to give you a different picture of the same problem.
Correct.
One of the students wanted to do it about pineapple last week. Oh, I want to put pineapple there because I just said, just give me a word, and she said pineapple.
Wow.
I like pineapple. I wanna see what we can come up with.
That's the first thing I thought about when you said pineapple was the pineal gland.
There you go.
Because it's shaped like a pineapple. Yeah.
The science. But then you have also in the science you have the production of pineapple.
That's right.
How does it reproduce? But then you have the economic side. How do we market the pineapple? How do we distribute this pineapple? What does it represent when you go in the arts? And not only in artistic representation, but also the representation of food, which is a cultural thing that comes with both humanities, history, and social sciences. And you start seeing all these connections, and to the point that she said, I think about SpongeBob. You say, well, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? She said, yeah, if you look at the characters, they look like the 7 deadly sins.
That's right. They are.
I was like, oh, So let's start putting that into the humanities side.
Yeah.
Let's figure out where this comes from. How does it affect us physically? Because we can connect it with our brains and our bodies. And we play with these things. We allow the students to be free in their discovery. We are just there to guide them. And yeah, we provide core knowledge. We provide ways to help them go, okay, look at your sources. Who's talking? Where this information comes from. Let's see who else is in agreement or in disagreement with this other one. And we teach them these things. So when they go to what they call the breadth courses, when they go to the classes that are specific content,
correct,
they have the capacity to be critical thinkers.
Yeah, to think. Creative thinkers. We need that.
Yeah. And there's something that I tell people all the time is that getting information, remembering information, and using that information is the lower level thinking.
That's right.
When you can evaluate this information and you can become a critical thinker, people call you smart. But when you can take that information and create something completely new out of it and become a creative thinker, you're a genius.
And that's why I'm looking at the sculpture actually right behind you. And that itself is a creative thought. It's not just something you say, I'm going to do this. It's something that evolves from an expression and an evolution of a feeling connected with your action. It's absolutely beautiful. I know you made that. So tell me.
I've been working on it for a while. I decided to destroy a sculpture that I was working on for many years because I just had it there. So I decided to destroy it, start something completely new. So today I added something else to it. I decided to add to the story. The original plan is called her Morning Light. She is embracing the fact that the light is hitting her face, but still she needs to, within the fear, she is trying to avoid it a little bit. Of course, if you look at the sun in the morning, it's gonna make you do that.
But you can only avoid so much.
I added something else. I was working on another sculpture, and I just brought the piece of that sculpture into this one and added this part over here. Let me just move my coffee so I don't spill it all over the place. I added this.
Oh, look at that.
The sleeping part of her. So it allows people to see themselves either way they're facing the light or not.
And it's funny because when I'm teaching martial arts or the regressive therapy or meditation goes from the light to the sleeping part of yourself. Mm-hmm. And it wakes that up to the light, because so many things we put to sleep metaphorically in our bodies and in our lives. We're like, I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm just going to put that to bed.
And at some point, even when we are not really aware of it, that part that we left out is affecting us in the consciousness.
That's right.
There's we were having a conversation after one of our groups on Tuesdays here, and part of the conversation, we're talking about different things about life, and I told my wife, wait a second, you never close the closet door. It doesn't matter how many times I go to the room, the closet door is open, I close it, you open it again. And it was like a spark. And she said, well, when I was a kid, my grandma put me in a little bed next to the closet, and there was a doll at the end of the closet. And those creepy dolls that if you move them, they open and close their eyes. I still find them creepy. And she will spend most of the night until she actually fell asleep, making sure that doll didn't move from there. And now as an adult, she still keeps the closet door open.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
And she didn't understand why until that little spark. It was like, oh, wait, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And we started discovering things, and she mentioned something about me, and I went into what happened then. And it was interesting to see how each one of the people involved in the conversation were like, oh, wait a second, this is why I behave this way.
This is why, yeah.
I try to avoid issues in this side. And we share these stories, and allow us to grow together, to learn together. And to take those things that are hidden, that are sleeping, and bring them into the light, as you mentioned.
Yeah, communication with, you know, we talk, but I'm not sure if we're communicating. When we communicate, and this is where the education comes in, what you're doing with your students, you're getting them to communicate with themselves.
Yeah.
We got to allow our students or people who we're working with to communicate with themselves, but listen to themselves.
Yes.
And once they start listening, and to wrap this up, once they start listening, they're able to evolve to the next level. And that's thinking.
Yes.
You know, and so once you go thinking and listening, you start to understand where your emotions come from and where your feelings are going, and then where your physical action is taking you.
Yeah.
Because then they all connect. And then that's why as practicing martial artists, we go with that mind, body, spirit. And I think when we talked about the education before, all of it was connected. It wasn't devoid of each other. And now things were separated out. We separate the physical, we separate the mental, we separate the emotional. And I think in education, we're missing part of that.
And not only the things that are cognitive, we separate. We try to separate the laws of science. We're trying to separate physics. One of the questions that I get a lot is, how do you do all these things? How do you have time to do all these things? And I say, well, I am not a scientist, but as far as I know, we all have 24 hours a day.
That's right. That's right.
How are you distributing your time? What are you doing with it? Are you giving it away to somebody else to control it? Those things are important to see, because we tend to glorify being busy. We glorify not being able to control our time, and it is killing our society. So we don't have the time to think about other things. We don't have time to discover who we are. We don't have time to listen to ourselves. People hate silence. Because in the silence, their inner being is talking to them, and they don't like what it's saying. We need to be willing to hear that voice, because that voice is really screaming inside of us, trying to get a problem solved. They want to be free. But if we don't listen to them, we will never know.
We'll never hear it. We're going to do more of these, you and I.
Anytime.
And I'm going to come up and visit you at your school and at the home. So that'll be great. And I know when we have time, and we'll collaborate and do more things. But as far as students concerned, what's the one thing you want to get out there to students and teachers?
It is time to discover.
Yeah.
Stop being afraid of discovering new things, because maybe that first path that you decided might not be yours. Might be just one step to discover yours. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.